Good morning, or afternoon, depending on what time you're on. It's afternoon in North Carolina already. I'm so glad to be here. I'm glad to spend the day with you guys. As Mont said, I am from Joliet. Actually, I was born and raised in New Lenox, moved to Joliet when I was 14 off of Brick Street, and went to Arizona when I was 17, went to Bible college, went to Grand Canyon in Phoenix, got married to my lovely bride in 2001, and then in 2008 had the greatest idea of bringing her back to Chicago in the coldest winter in history. And we are still married, but she's very happy that we are in North Carolina. We actually went to Raleigh 2 years ago on this date to start a church planning network with a merger church down there in the Point. So it's been great, and I love being able to share with you. So I have a quick question. How many of you have been engaged or are engaged? Okay, if you are married, you were engaged at one time. I know it can seem so long ago. Man, I've never been engaged. Yes, you were. No, I was not, baby. You were before we got married. Oh, I forgot, right? I mean, I understand. So you know, as guys, that was like nervous, right? Before you did that, I mean, anything else like asking a girl out, that could be hard. You know, meeting the parents for the first time, that could be hard. But I mean, you know, when you had to go to that store, like when you kind of knew it was that time, I mean, you went to the store and you had to go look, and what did you find? You found that you had to find the 4 C's about this stone that was going to cost you a lot of money, right? 4 C's of a diamond, like this rock that you have to give this woman, and you know, they're color, cut, clarity, and carat, right? And you got to know those. If you don't, this is pro stuff, guys. You should take notes. If you're not engaged right now, this is diamonds. You like that little pun? This is gold, which that goes on top of. Anyway, I'm sorry, bad jokes. So when you go there, the thing that makes it better is the cut, right? The cut is what is so good about it. Like if you they take the time to cut it and make these facets and to make that's what makes it have this brilliance and this shine. See, you can have a 2-carat diamond and it can be cloudy, it can have a bad cut, and it can look like hot garbage. And you can have a 1-carat diamond that looks flawless and better, and they can be double. Like the smaller one can cost more than the bigger one. And so the thing is, if you're pro tip, if you're going to get on your knee, don't waste your time if it's cloudy. If it can't blind somebody in the eye, if it can't hail ships in from the sea, right, then don't even give it to her, all right? It's not going to work. They want it to shine bright like a diamond. That's why Rihanna made a song about it. But just like diamonds, our character doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen through osmosis. A diamond, you're not just go out and kick over a stone and find a diamond in the rough that just sparkles and looks at. Time goes into it. The same is with our character. It doesn't just fall off the sky. Time goes into it. It has to go through pressure and through cutting and prodding. You would almost say that that's like an adversarial relationship, like that diamond naturally, it's just fine. It just wants to be what it is. But like you have to go at it with pressure and you have to work at it and chisel it and cut it. And these don't sound good things to get it to where you want to. Well, the same is with our character. How many of you guys have been to the School of Hard Knocks? Yeah, some of you guys have masters. I have a PhD in that, right? I just keep going back. But the thing is that a lot of us have learned a lot by that. Like we've seen that there's no education like adversity sometimes. And we want to avoid adversity. I mean, that's what you want to do. You want to have an easy life. But yet I believe that adversity has the potential to create greatness in a person. If you're with us, you can go ahead and turn to chapter 7 of Ecclesiastes. You can look at that in your Bible, the Bible app on the screen. We're going to be looking at chapter 7 and 8. And Solomon's going to start off talking about something that I think goes well in what we're talking about. He begins chapter 7 by saying a good name is better than good ointment. So you read this and we got to take off our 21st century glasses and we say good ointment. Like, what is that? Like, basically you can say that a good name is better than gold, better than money. That's basically what he's saying because, you know, ointments and things of that nature were very expensive back then. You got to remember that Solomon was one of the richest men to ever have lived. He asked God for wisdom. God gave him opportunity to get money, to get power, to get fame, and he chose wisdom. And he said, and he thought that was good. He said, I'm going to give you wisdom and I'm going to give you other things just a la carte, just for being smart. And so he was filthy rich. And yet he says that a good name is better. He's saying that a reputation, like what your name means for, what you stand for, is better than sweet-smelling perfumes or cologne. You got to remember, back in the days, they would trade salt. Like to season your food was a sign of wealth, because you know that the spices and things of that nature. We see when Jesus came in that they had the spices, and that the lady had the jar of oil that was a year's wages, right? So you realize it wasn't like back in the day that's like it is now. Like you can't just go to Walgreens and just buy some Axe. If you stink, you stink. And the only way you can smell good is if you have some money. And so what is he saying here? He's saying what I know, having teenage sons. My boys go out. They play basketball. You guys are not. I love it. They play basketball. They get nice and sweaty. Smells like good old grass and sweat. Mom says, hey, let's go get something to eat. Wash up. What do? They run and throw some more deodorant on, spray a little more Axe, and they're back out. We laugh. We all know that they're still funky underneath that. It's just now funky Axe, right? And this is what Solomon's saying. He's saying that your reputation is more valuable, more lasting than the lingering scent of perfume, because the bottom line is once that perfume wears off, you're left with the mess you are. But your good name is something that's internally, right? Your good name is who you are. You're just a good person. So it's like getting the bath. So basically Solomon's saying you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. But your name is better. What about you, church? What about you this morning? What about you, mom, dad, husband, father, wife, daughter, friend, co-worker? What is your reputation like? What is your reputation like at work, in your neighborhood, in your church, in your home? Are you a person of integrity? Are you seeking to be an example of Christ? Not just here, not just around other Christians, but in everything you do. Are you an inspiration to your peers? Does your name mean something? Because Solomon, one of the richest men in the world, is writing to us. We're looking in here, right, looking for wisdom. He's saying that this is something we should be after, a good name. And then he goes on and concludes the first verse. He says, and the day of one's death is better than the day of one's birth. Wait a minute, are you serious? Let's read that again. That must be a typo. But it says this right here. And the day of one's death is better than the day of one's birth. Now, I celebrated my children's birth. It was awesome, right? That day was spectacular. And as a believer, we believe that when we pass in this life, it's just the beginning of eternity, right? And so we celebrate people going home. We celebrate their life and when we remember them. But you have to admit, celebrating someone's birth and celebrating their death, even though they're called celebration, they're two different celebrations, aren't they? They just don't feel the same. And so then when you look at this, how Solomon's saying, and the day of one's death is better than the day of one's birth. I mean, there's 2 days that is very important when our name is prominent. It's the day that we receive our name, right? The hospital nurse comes in and says, what's the name? I remember this because we thought our second child was going to be a girl, and we had a girl name picked out, and he came out a boy. And so we were like, what's the name? I don't know. Right? I remember that pressure of thinking that, you don't just do it on the fly. I want to make sure we had a good name. And the second most prominent time is when your name appears in the obituary column. What happens between those 2 times, those 2 days, the day of your birth and the day of your death, can either be something lovely or it can be a foul stench. See, Solomon's not buying into this philosophy that we should live in despair. He wouldn't tell us 8 times in his book to enjoy life. He says that we should enjoy life. But he also says that we shouldn't hesitate on talking about death nor scoffing at it, because it's something that is going to happen for us. And if we don't prepare for it, then it can be disastrous. And so we need to have a good name. What will you be remembered for? Obviously, he's saying that is more important than any of your money. Like, how do we even put things together, right? When you look at a gravestone, it is say John Doe, Susie so-and-so, 1956 to 2018. And what's in between that? A dash. Exactly. We list the year of birth and the year of death, and between that is a dash. Solomon might agree that this life is a quick dash from birth to death. It's just a vapor. And whatever we do on earth, all the influence we ever gain, all the reputation we ever build, is summarized in that simple line between one year and another. It's not much time, really. It's not much time to really serve God, but it's plenty of time for us making a mess of our lives, isn't it? The first thing I want you to see this morning, follow on the first point, is that adversity is better than prosperity. Adversity is better than prosperity. And before you get up and walk out, I want you to think about this, that think about the friction that you needed in your life, and where would you be? As I said, when I went to Arizona, I went out there in 99, and how many of you heard of the biosphere? Remember that, biozone? You hear that out here a little bit? Made news. They were basically trying to see if they could formulate how they can get life to be sustainable without, like if they can make a natural kind of earth. And so they built this big dome, and they put this ecosystem in there. They're trying to create this habitat to say if we had to leave, right, that the earth's resources will not last forever, so we have to be able to be self-sustaining. Can we make another earth? And so they built this stuff, and then they found that trees were falling over. Trees would grow, they would get big, and then they just start falling over. Like you could push them over. They couldn't understand what was going on. All these scientists, all these great men, hundreds of millions of dollars. Why are trees falling over? Because there was no wind. Isn't that crazy? There was no wind. There was no natural friction. There was no force that had been coming against that tree as a little sapling and growing up and maturing, so the roots didn't grow deeper, because that's what they do. And because their roots didn't grow deeper, they were flimsy and they failed. You see, adversity is better than prosperity, because the things that you want to pay your way out of does not increase who you are. It leaves you weak and frail. Like you need some friction in your life. Are you with me this morning? See, Solomon says in verse 5 that receiving correction and getting constructive criticism can seem adversarial. Like we all like to think that we love constructive criticism. We love it when we feel that it's just, we love construction, we love building up, but being criticized, none of us love. We always like to pat on the back, if we're honest. I mean, we say we like criticism, but it always hurts a little bit. It does. Because you want people just to say how great it was, how good it is. I remember one time, it was actually about a month ago, I got done, I thought I preached a fantastic sermon. And it was a guy who was a new COO of our church organization. He came in, and I thought I preached a really good sermon, got a lot of high fives, I pat on the backs, and I walked up to him, and I asked him a question, thinking I was going to get the answer I wanted to get. How'd you like that sermon? And he was like, do you want my honest opinion? I was like, oh, yeah, I do. He was like, you can do better. Well, I was like, what? He was like, yeah, you can do better. And it stung, because I wasn't expecting to hear that. And he was just like, yeah, it was decent, but there's room for you to grow. And he started listing things off. But it was good for me. At that moment, I could take that as an adversary, or I could take that as wisdom. And Solomon says, take it as wisdom. So Solomon explains that we can't understand why God uses adversity to prosper us, how he bends certain things, and there's nothing that we can do about it. How that he can use some of the afflictions at the appointed times of our life to sit there and bring out the best. And he also says that it's futile for you to try to figure it all out. I mean, you guys have been there before. We don't know why sometimes a bad parent will raise good kids and a good parent gets bad kids. We don't know why the person that smokes 15 packs a minute will live to be 100 years old, and the person that never smoked will die of lung cancer. We don't understand that. We don't know why you can be a fitness fanatic and have a heart attack when you're running there, and you can eat neck bones every day, praise the Lord, but and live to be 85. We don't know that, and we try to figure these things out. We don't get it. But what I will tell you is that, as we said, God's a good Father. And he has our best in mind. And we have to trust and believe in him. And even though I don't like some of the things that may feel like come from his hand, right? Tell him that. Like your dad. I don't like everything my dad's done. You don't like everything your dad's done either. Like, so think about it. If this relationship's got to be two ways. So I say to the guy sometimes, I really don't like that. I really don't like how this is happening, but I'm going to trust in you, right? See, there's the but. I don't like this. I don't understand this, but I'm going to trust in you, that I know that you don't waste a hurt, that you don't waste any adversity, that you have a purpose for what you're doing it, and it's for my good and it's for your kingdom. You see, as people of faith, we must trust God. Therefore, when times are good, I want to encourage you to be happy, to enjoy them. Don't waste the opportunity trying to accumulate more. Don't wait for retirement. Enjoy the things now. One of the saddest things in life is this, that when our children are young and most enjoyable, that's when we're the most absent, working for this future we may never see. to get them to this college they can go to, and then when we're ready for them, they're gone. That makes no sense to me. Now, I'm not saying, trust me, I'm all about being a good steward. And we need to save, we need to invest. But what I'm saying is don't do that at the expense of today. See, when the times are good, be happy. But when the times are bad, church, be patient. Be patient because the same God who made the good times has allowed the bad. And neither situation is outside of his sovereignty. See, the only thing about sovereignty is that what I like to say is that for us, the sovereignty of God normally works in hindsight. And let me explain this to you. We normally can't see or understand the sovereignty of God right now, and we don't know how God is going to work in the future. But normally we can look back and see his hand when we look at the past, right? And so the thing is, when the bad times come, and just like the tree analogy, I'm willing to bet that just like me, just like you, the more times that you grew, when your faith was stronger, when you changed, was not in the good times, but in the bad. We don't want to admit it. But when you think about it, the time you did the most growing is during the hardest times of your life. When you were drawn to your knees. When you had to cry out. When all you really had was Jesus. When it had to be a miracle. When you had to stand on his promises. When you realized his true faithfulness. That was when you grew. But then as human beings, we don't want to go through that valley again. So we believe that if we can just get enough, it can pay our way forward. But why would we ever want to do that? Because guess what? If you were to go back 3-4 years to go to that tough time and get rid of it, you wouldn't be the man or woman that you are today. I was laid off for 10 months in 2008. I'll make it real quick. And I prayed and prayed and prayed. Can I tell you, God, I'm doing everything right. Yeah, I have to work. I have a family. I have 3 kids. What are you doing? I wanted so bad to be rescued from that moment. But church, if that would have happened, if God would have answered that prayer the way I wanted it, I would never have moved to Illinois, back home. I would never have gotten on staff at Crossroads. I would never have gotten to a church planting residency. I would never have moved and planted a church, and I would never be before you right now. I would go back and do 20 months. 30 months of unemployment for the blessings I've gotten now. You couldn't pay me enough to not go through that. And that's the sovereignty of God, and that's hindsight. We have to trust God. See, the thing is, try as we might, we cannot prepare for everything, church. We cannot have all contingencies figured out. While God expects us to be wise and good stewards of our time, talent, and treasures, he does not want us to play God. There are times when you just have to play the cards that you were dealt, remembering that God is still the dealer and he has your best interest in mind. And he's given you a mind to do wisely with the things he's given you. The second thing I want you to see this morning is that humility is the way to wisdom. Humility is the way to wisdom. See, we have to realize that there are things we won't ever know about God. There are things we won't always understand about God. And see, he says right here in verse 15, 8:15, so I commend it pleasure, for there is nothing good for a man under the sun except to eat, to drink, and to be merry, and this will stand by him in his toils throughout the days of his life, which God has given under the sun. Basically, Solomon is saying we can't figure everything out. All we can do is trust in God. We can't prepare for the future. We can't prepare for the present. We can't do anything about the past, so all we can do is just live the best we can. Seize the day. Understand that God's in control, that there are going to be things that don't seem like it's supposed to work out the way it does, but we don't need to worry about it. Go and enjoy your favorite meal. He encourages us to be merry. That life is too short. Don't make it any more miserable. Chapter 8 closes with this, says in these words, when I gave my heart to know wisdom and to see the task which has been done on earth, I saw every work of God. I conclude that man cannot discover the works which has been done under the sun. Even though man should seek laboriously, he would not discover. And though the wise man should say, I know, he cannot. Solomon concludes, being the wisest man on earth, that knowing God is futile. That having an understanding of everything that God's going to do, all of his plans, is just dumb. He's just saying that I've discovered that I can't discover. The more that we work trying to figure out God, the more we realize that we can't. This is why we have to humble ourselves. That's why wisdom is the beginning Humility is the beginning of wisdom because we have to humble ourselves to realize that God is God. And guess what? If we can figure God out, then he's not worth following. Because he's a pretty limitless God if you can figure him out. Are you with me? If you can figure out God, then that's not God at all. What we really need to do is start striving and training and just return to a simple faith. That's the third and final point I got for you this morning. Is that faith in God is better than understanding. Wait a minute, what are you talking about, Brandon? I don't want you not to get understanding. I don't want you not to be wise. I don't want you not to read. But I'm saying faith in God is better than understanding. Because the fact is that it takes faith to have a relationship with Jesus. It might not make you feel good, but the fact of the matter is you're not going to be able to understand everything about God, and you're going to need faith. See, Harry Houdini, he had made a name for himself about being this great escape artist. And he had gotten out of straitjackets and all kind of handcuffs and all kind of jail cells. And he had boasted about how there's no cell that could keep him. And a man took him up on a challenge. They brought him into a jail cell, everything normally. Straitjacket, handcuff, closed the jail cell behind him. He quickly got out the straitjacket. He quickly, was able to pull out his little piece of metal and get his locks off. And then he went to go work on the jail cell. After a couple hours, he's getting hot and tired. It's not happening. Like, what's going on? He's working and working. Takes a little break. He comes back at it for a few more hours again. Now he's completely exhausted. And you kind of just see the jailer outside like, you're done? He's like, I'm finally done. They open the door and he's been bested. And he's wondering, what happened? What was different this time? You know what was different this time, church? The jail cell wasn't locked. The only place that door was locked was in Mr. Houdini's mind. You see, faith is not a complex process. It's not the result of years of education or flashy supernatural experiences. I'm not trying to discredit either of those things, but I'm saying the door to believe is ready to open, and it's only locked in the minds of us that don't believe or don't choose to believe or don't want to accept the simple truths of what Jesus has to offer. See, God wants you and me to try to stop figuring everything out about this life. He just wants us to humbly submit ourselves to him. Will you trust in the midst of this unstable and uncertain life? See, will you choose to believe as Solomon did after he had tasted and seen everything? He still looked around him and saw the brokenness of the world, broken families, broken lives, even in his day. He realized he had to stop figuring it out, that he wasn't going to come up with an answer, that more money, more time off, bigger promotion, bigger house wasn't going to be the answer. Comparing yourself to everyone and seeing where you're at in the pecking order wasn't going to be the answer, that the only answer for this king was to humbly turn to God and his word for his wisdom. And the same thing that was true for Solomon thousands of years ago is true for us this morning, that we need to humbly turn to God, to his word, and turn to his wisdom and put him at the center of our life. And only when we do that will life begin to make sense.